Oh, that's so much better. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Mark the date if you haven't already. I put a post up on YouTube basically saying I'm going to be exposing the company, name and shame and everything, that basically decided to discriminate against me, that broke GDPR, and was responsible for me going into depression. But that's of course not why you called. Don't worry about me melting too much in this. I mean, I will have myself perked up in no time. Besides, I've got a load of water here as well. Yes, this is water, not the Lucozade that I've just been drinking, because I have to have some semblance of preparation, let me tell you. I can't just always drink this shit, huh? But what I want to talk about is Kneecap and Bob Villain. These people who together, alongside the people of Glastonbury Festival, have about as much brains between them as a post-lobotomy clinic. These people have less IQ than the one-eyed troll. These people have decided to say quite clearly what they think, which I don't mind as long as it doesn't involve breaking the law, i.e. inciting violence, inciting terrorism, inciting people to commit criminal acts, etc., etc., which I know people are going to link towards Lucy Connolly. I do grant you that. However, I would argue that what these two have done is far worse. One of them, Kneecap, decided to put in the lyrics of one of their songs to go and kill a local MP. Yeah. Totally not inciting violence there, eh? And then we have the twat Bob Villain, who clearly did not get up at the right side of history because he decided to basically go out of his way at first, which isn't the main crime he's done, but I will get to it. But the first thing he mentioned was he basically sung a song saying, "Shut the fuck up, you're not getting your country back," which in and of itself would be enough to deeply offend any Indigenous English patriot who loves their country. But the real crime he committed was when he made an extremely anti-Semitic chant at Glastonbury Festival, which was "Death, Death" to the IDF. And what happens when you put a whole group of people who have the same collective intelligence as a mentally deficient dog on acid? They start parroting what he said, and before long, the whole fucking festival started chanting "Death, Death" to the IDF. Now, you know the old saying, a broken clock can be right twice a day, or is still right twice a day, rather. Well, Keir the traitor Starmer, as much as I am loath to give him credit, at least got something right for once when he said that these chants were wholly anti-Semitic. And basically, there's been a lot of calls for action to be taken on these people. But before I do that, I want to get into my TV licensing letter that I also saw come through the post this morning, because I do love a good roasting of the racketeering group of the BBC. And remember the BBC for later because it actually is relevant. But, official notice. You are breaching the Communications Act 2003 if you do not have a TV license to cover you for watching or recording live TV on any channel or device or everything on iPlayer at my address. As we still have no record of a TV license at this stroke number one, I'm off to a good start, at this address, by law we have no option but to continue with our investigation. You should now expect a visit from enforcement officers in your area. I've been expecting these officers for the last year or so and you cunts still haven't turned up. Why is that? I am so glad that I have to keep reading this shit because it's basically me openly taunting you. I'm taking the piss out of you. I am living rent-free in your head. In fact, I own the whole fucking apartment complex in that head of yours. Because it means you still aren't getting the 200 fucking pounds or however much this TV license is, which you can continue to fleece other people with and actually broadcast things like the anti-Semitic shit that Bob Villain did. That's right. there were some BBC chiefs who decided they were going to broadcast this live as Bob Villain was chanting this shit, with all of the brain-dead fools doing it with him. Now do you see why I've actually decided to read this TV licensing letter? This is what your £200 or whatever it is, however much it costs. I know it's around the 160, 200 mark. That's where your money goes. Just let that sink in. Anyway, what was it? If enforcement officers find evidence of illegal TV viewing, you could be interviewed under caution in accordance with national criminal law, which could lead to prosecution. Well, at the end of the day, these people don't have those special powers. They're not the police. They like to claim they are, but they're glorified salesmen. I've said it many times before. And what would you do if a salesman decided to come along and knock on your front door? Most people, I would have thought, as soon as they find it's a salesman, bam, just close the door, move on. That's basically the exact same approach you should take with the racketeering group over at TV licensing. I believe it's Capita, if I recall correctly. That's what I do, because they don't have any powers over you. They're nobody special. They like to claim they are, but they're not. As soon as somebody goes and you open the door, who are you? What do you want? I'm from TV licensing. No, thank you. Minus the plate. Anyway, once you do that, investigation's over. They can do nothing more. And you have stopped the racketeering group from claiming your 200 quid. Just like that. Because that's all you need to do. As long as you don't watch or record any programs that are being broadcast live, or watch anything on iPlayer, you have nothing to fear from these fuckers. Bear that in mind. The maximum penalty is a criminal conviction, and you may have to pay a fine of up to oh fucking hell, stroke number 2, and you may have to pay a fine up to £1,000 and any legal costs and or compensation. 2 strokes in 7 minutes. This is not looking good for me. So, the most people have ever had to pay as far as this fine is concerned, 200, 300 quid. Maybe 400 pushing it. But at the end of the day, most people pay less than if they were to have the fucking TV license in the first place. You don't have to worry as long as you don't let them in. Because here's the thing. They cannot come into your home unless you invite them in. They're not the police. They don't have a search warrant. They don't have anything. What I will say, however, is do not remove their implied rights of access, as that's because they've started to get smart over the years, and they've been thinking, well, hang on a minute, why are they removing our implied rights of access? I think we need to go and get a warrant. And that's what they do. And then they enter your home, just like that. And then you will have a problem, because some of these people will go as far as to fabricate evidence against you, even though it's against their code of conduct. But the only way they can acquire the evidence is one of 2 ways. Or 3 if you technically count the fabrication of evidence. But first and foremost, you let them in. That is the number 1 way they'll get evidence against you. Number 2, you let something slip. So you say, oh, well, yes, I love recording programs as they're broadcast live. Boom, you're done. And obviously the third reason, which I just mentioned, they fabricate the evidence. As long as you don't let them in, or say anything, answer their questions, nothing. Don't do any of those things, they can't do shit. Like I said, who are you? I'm from TV licensing. Slam the door in their face. Jog on. As long as you do that, they have no power over you. So, on that lovely note, that's where that belongs. In the bin. Because their letters are meaningless. Not even worth the paper it's written on. Now back to the story. So, Lucy Connolly, as you recall, was arrested and jailed for 31 months for a tweet she deleted, which was, at worst, advocating for criminal damage against migrant hotels. At best, it was her voicing her frustrations, and bear in mind, as said, she deleted her tweet within hours. That's not good enough for them. They sentenced her in the blink of an eye. Judge Hemroyd denied her appeal. Meanwhile, he's willing to allow Nazir Ahmed to get 30 months in jail for raping a boy. But people want to have the audacity to say there's no such thing as two-tier justice. Yeah, my arse. Oh. They can't fool us. And the way I slice this is, there was a video that was put out, I believe, by Not Satan, I believe the channel's name is. Well, his name's not Satan, my name's not Jesus Christ, and I'm pretty sure it's not Noah either. Who said, no, you're just the guy who caused the flood? Shut up, you. I'm not that fucking big. Jesus Christ. Oh, God, some people. But jokes aside, I can understand the point he made, but I don't agree with it, which was, he's saying that we shouldn't go down the same path that the leftoids do, which is we should seek their arrest. We should seek them to be imprisoned in the same manner as Lucy Connolly did. Well, the way I look at this is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Connolly was sentenced and rejected of our appeal for less than what these dickheads have done. Those two actively incited violence and murder against MPs and the IDF. And let me give you a little context on the IDF as well. At 18 years old, these people end up getting conscripted into the IDF regardless. So we have teenagers growing up, 18th birthday. What do I get for my birthday? You get to join the fucking IDF, son. Good luck with that. Yeah. 18 years old, conscripted into the fucking army, like Keir the traitor Starmer wants us conscripted into his little army to go and fight Russia or whoever the fuck he wants. Of course we won't go, because we have that rare thing called common sense. But unfortunately, those boys, they don't have a choice. But it's understandable when you think about the threats that the IDF face constantly, that Israel faces constantly. They're having to face terrorist groups on their own because effectively people are too scared to admit that these people need like defensive technology. Do I think we should aid them in the war? No, I don't. Do I think we should give them defensive technology so they can defend themselves? Yeah, I do. I think that they should have like this kind of Iron Curtain technology where they can stop things from hitting their cities and what have you. I think anything that can shut down a nuke, anything that can shut down missiles, I would encourage the use of, quite frankly. Anything to prevent the casualties. And yes, I'll even dare to say it, even the civilians in Gaza need some of that technology. Because then it may stop innocent women and children from being butchered. That is the devil's advocate as far as Palestine is concerned. But the thing is, Islam knows all too well they can pull on the heartstrings because they know full well that if they go and hide their bases or what have you inside schools and hospitals, who's going to want to target them? The mental thinking would be, oh, we can't do that, we'll be committing a war crime. But then that's what Islam wants, because then it gives them that psychological advantage, and that's where they excel in. Using women and children and using the psychological mentality of let's not bomb the children, let's not bomb schools or hospitals, to then strike at whoever with devastating consequences. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. And as I said before, I am not a heartless person who doesn't care about women and children. Far from it. And I'm not even going to entertain clowns that want to think that I want them to be killed. I've said it many times before, we'll say it here again. I do not wish harm to those who do not know a battle and would not seek it. But that is the cold, bitter truth. Islam loves to use women and children. Psychological warfare. And then, what happens when women and children who are committed to going out of their way to attack their enemies do so? They're left with some of the most horrible choices a person can make. Kill a child, kill a woman, or watch as their squad dies. Just like that. And as I said before, I know I wouldn't be able to make a decision like that. It takes a very special kind of someone who can completely detach from emotion. Maybe they got rid of their suspenders, I don't know. Anyway, it takes a special kind of person to be able to detach themselves from that kind of emotion and be able to make the cold, calculated decisions like that. And I do not envy anyone who has to make that decision, quite frankly. But I am going off topic here. This is about Kneecap and Villain. Kneecap, for calling for MPs to be killed, no equivocations about it. They should be fucking locked up. Period. Likewise for Bob Villain, actively calling for violence against the IDF. I think he should also face some police action. Because the way I look at it is freedom of speech is there, but it is not to be used as a shield to protect you against the law. If you actively go out of your way to incite violence against other people who you dislike, I'm sorry, but your human rights are forfeit. Your freedom of speech rights are forfeit, the way I look at it. You can't sit there and advocate for that kind of thing. I guarantee you this much. If I came out of my house, I went into Anglia Square or I went into Norwich Marketplace and I started chanting death, death to the Islamic State, I guarantee you I'd have coppers all over me. Just like that. They'd be taking me away to the constabulary and drawing me up on a hate crime. No question about it. But the two-tier policing society decided they don't want to do that yet with Kneecap and Villain, not until they've had a chance to review the comments. What the fuck is there to review? It's in black and fucking white. They have actively called for violence against MPs and the IDF. And this has nothing at all to do with Zionism before anybody jumps on that fucking bandwagon. Because I know there are some people who are already chomping at the bit to go, yeehaw, and just fucking get that wagon going. This has nothing at all to do with Zionism. This is basic human decency, is what it is. Do you see me going out of my way to say, death to all women and children? No, you don't. Do you see me going out there and saying, blow up all the Bell End churches? No. You know why? Basic human decency. That's what it boils down to. It isn't a matter of, oh, I'm just built a different way, or, oh, I'm holier than thou. I don't have to be holier than anyone, least of all Jesus Christ, to be able to say, you know what, I don't think that's right. But obviously, those wankers, Kneecap and Bob Villain, they don't think like that. What I find sad is there are going to be people who actively defend them. And hell, Bob Villain's even gone out of his way to try and portray himself as a victim. No, you're not a victim, bud. You're the perpetrator. You try to sit here and say, you're being targeted. No, you're not. You are facing an actions meet consequences scenario. You fucked around and now you're finding out. Because there is some good news to all this. This silly twat, Bob Villain, has had his VIP tour of 26 shows binned. Bang. Gone. Just like that. All because of his anti-Semitic chanting. Clearly his editors and his superiors didn't want him to be at these places. Didn't want him to be at this tour. As I said, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. You are not a victim in this, Bob Villain. You are the perpetrator. And actions have consequences. It's a shame it took you this for you to figure that shit out. But as far as this trinity of what links Lucy Connolly, Kneecap, and of course Bob Villain is concerned, they are all aligned by one same thing. They said what they believed. One said it out of frustration. One said it out of stupidity. And the other one said it because he has an anti-Semitic view. However, it is only the first one who has been politically persecuted, who has been punished by the system for what they've said, even though they even went out of their way to delete their tweet. And people want to say there's no such thing as two-tier policing or two-tier justice. Now, there's only two ways that they can solve this. First and foremost, is Lucy Connolly is released. Let me restart that. If these two are not going to get persecuted, Kneecap and Bob Villain, then Lucy Connolly needs to be released. Because it then becomes a matter of what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and if they're allowed to say whatever the fuck they want, she should be able to as well. Or, the second option is she's currently in jail right now for saying what she said, whether it's incitement or not. Let's leave that at the door. But we have two people who have incited violence against people, and that's exactly the same thing, if you want to go that far, that Lucy's done. Although she deleted her tweet, as I said, and she was venting her frustrations, which I think a lot of us people have those same fucking frustrations, quite frankly. Just some people don't have the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to say those things. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I can't stress that enough. And if she can be locked up for that shit, those two should be as well. And I highly recommend those people get at least 3 years for inciting violence against other people. I personally think it should be 5 or more, quite frankly. Because if you're actively calling for others to go and commit crimes, and you're actively putting MPs or whoever in danger, you're a threat. And if it were down to me, I'd be taking out the trash. He'd be out of this country before you could even say two-tier care. That's the way I look at it. It's up to our two-tier policing society. How do you want to handle this? Are you going to release Lucy Connolly? Or are you going to lock those two up? And you've got to make a decision quick. Because this could be something that sparks off a revolution. Because people are already fed up of what's going on. Look at what's happened in Belfast. Look what's happened in Ballymena. Look what's happened in Dublin. Look what's happened in Belfast. People have tried to be peaceful over in Ireland, and because they kept on getting ignored, abused, discarded, treated like nobodies, the people finally cracked, and they'd had enough. And then they had the audacity in the PSNI to say it's sectarian violence, when what it really was again, the lack of actions in this case meets consequences. Where their lack of action against the people who are attacking their women and children, and the lack of action against the illegal immigrants that are flooding the borders, caused people to say, we've had enough, we're rioting. I said it before in that case, and I'll say it here again. The police and the government of Ireland have only got themselves to blame for that happening. If they had have done what the people asked, this would have gone away, just like that. But no, they couldn't help themselves. They couldn't help calling them far right. They couldn't help calling it sectarian violence. They couldn't help calling it anything other than what it truly fucking was, which was people who are concerned, angry and frustrated at the way the country's being run and how they're being ignored. As JFK once said, when you make peaceful resolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. And the same logic applies here in the United Kingdom. What do you think is going to happen if Keir the traitor Starmer and our two-tier policing society and two-tier justice society are going to continue to go out of their way to ignore the will of the English people? It'll eventually all erupt. It's honestly why I think this whole free speech protest is the very last chance for this to end peacefully. Because I can say this much free of fucking charge. There is no shot that this country is going to last 5 years or 4 years. It's not going to get to the next general election unless it's called immediately before the people riot. I guarantee that. People have had enough. They're sick of the blatant two-tier justice and policing, the kid gloves approach with foreign nationals, where this is something else as well. I read this article this morning, actually, about how a white man who ended up being charged for basically raping a 20-year-old woman, I think, or girl. And you know what happened with him? Do you think he got community service? Do you think he got a slap on the wrist? No. For once, the police did their job, believe it or not. At least 16, 20 fucking years in prison for that man. Isn't it funny how when it's white English people, they seem more than capable of doing that shit. But when it's foreign nationals, oh no, we better not do that. Just a slap on the wrist. You naughty boy, don't ever do that again, young man. And that's it, and we never hear the rest of it. But that's something the mainstream media, of course, are going to be very reluctant to tell you. But people have had enough of it. People are sick and tired of this two-tier justice. And eventually, it will all kick off. And as I said, I don't want that. I don't want it to go down the violent revolution/civil war path. But if it does, Keir the traitor Starmer won't be able to blame the Tories or the far right for that happening. He'll only have himself to blame, because he's the one who instigated it, just like he instigated the Southport riots. Not Tommy Robinson, Keir the traitor Starmer. And the way I look at it is if robust action isn't taken against Kneecap or Bob Villain, whatever you want to call him, it's going to be another nail in the coffin, as it were. It's going to be another thing that stokes the tension, that pours gasoline on the fire. And before long, this powder keg's going to erupt. And when it does, its explosion is going to be fucking massive. Like, it's going to be gargantuan. It is going to be on a scale that this country has never seen before. It'll be the biggest revolution in history. The bottom line is this. Our two-tier police, surely these fuckers in Glastonbury, another way to look at it, surely they could hear this man preaching that shit, and surely they should have realised how reprehensible it was to say this stuff, and surely they should have taken out the trash. Which leads me to believe this is all planned. Leads me to believe that the police are complicit. Are they? They can prove me wrong by arresting the fucker and then giving him a nice hefty sentence. But I doubt that's going to happen, folks. I really do. I highly doubt the police have got the cojones to actually do some right by the people of the United Kingdom. I doubt they've got the balls, whether up here or down there, or of course in my case both, to actually make the hard decisions to put this man behind bars. Because as I said many times, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Time to make a decision. Are you going to condone anti-Semitism? Or are you going to punish it? Are you going to tolerate people who are openly calling for violence? Or are you going to do your bit to keep the country safe? Time will tell. It's time to pick a side once again. Who do you serve? English police. Do you serve your people? Or do you indeed serve your government?